Harihi Om, Jai Shri Krishna. Shubhodaya, everyone. Welcome to the weekly Pratipadartha room. We hold this every Saturday after completing the full Parayana of Bhagavad-Gita from Sunday to Saturday. Between Sunday to Saturday, we divide the entire Gita into 7 sets, primarily divided by the chapters. Approximately 100 shlokas is what we cover on a daily basis. So Sundays, we chant chapters 1 and 2. Between them, we have about 119 shlokas. Mondays, we chant chapters 3 and 4. Between them, we have 85 shlokas. So on and so forth. We divide by the chapters and then we cover the entire Bhagavad Gita in a week of 7 days. So today morning, we completed chapters 17 and 18 as the guided chanting exercise. And every Saturday we do that. And after completing the full Bhagavad Gita cycle of all the 18 chapters, that is something that we do every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, India time. And after that, we do every Saturday we host this room, which is the Pratipadartha. Basically, every week we meet for about 90 minutes and try to explore as many shlokas as possible, broken down word by word, and try to see what exactly is Bhagavan Sri Krishna trying to say from a verbatim basis, from the actual word by word basis. Though we have quite a few translations of the Gita available that all claim to be Bhagavad-Gita as it is, we can clearly see from within our own limited understanding of Sanskrit, we can definitely see there is a lot of bias that people bring in, and there is no harm in that. But this is an attempt to basically understand Bhagavad-Gita in as much honesty as possible, as close to what Sri Krishna was trying to convey to Arjuna. Right? So far we have covered till the 40th shloka of the 18th chapter. This is the final chapter of the Gita. The final shloka, the shloka before this, was basically Krishna trying to tell Arjuna, Natadasti prithvyam va divideveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadevi syat trivir gunai. There is not a single entity either on this earth or in the nether world, like in the other world, outer world, like Devaloka, or even among the gods, even among the many Devaganas, there is not a single entity which is devoid of these Prakriti Guna, like the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamo Guna, and the effect of them. Right? Everybody has an effect of these three gunas in them, right? From Chaturmukha Brahma, Stamba Pariyantam, Brahma Pariyantam, from that Brahma till the blade of grass, the way we call, right? The entire spectrum of all the living beings, we count right from the Chaturmukha Brahma, the creator of this entire universe, to the blade of grass, the tiniest of the living entity, right? Everybody has an impact in their day-to-day life by the three gunas which are born out of the Prakriti. Now, why did I say that? Because before that, he was explaining how the three gunas will impact our definition of sukha, our definition of dhriti, which is the determination. Right? There are some people who can be determined for the sake of a vested interest, and there are some people who are determined primarily because things need to be done. Right? And there are some people who are determined in doing wrong things. Right? Some people can be easily be determined to spend the entire night dancing to some trance music, right? Brainlessly, without any thought. Why they do, we don't know. Some people can be determined to spend the entire night drinking, alcohol, right? But ask them to spend the entire night study some scripture, gain some knowledge. That may not happen for them. So naturally, there are some people whose determination is tamasic, and there are people whose determination is sattvic, right? So the impact of these three gunas, the sattva, rajas, and the tamoguna, in the way people experience the sukha, in the way people show the determination, dhriti, in the way some people's buddhi, the intelligence play out, because these three things were quite important to determine the nature of action that people do, the nature of action doers that people are, the karta. And he was also explaining the way these three gunas will have an impact on the nature of the karma that people do, nature of actions people do, nature of karta that people are, and also the nature of jnana that people possess, the prakritika jnana, right? Because everybody will understand things in their own swabhava guna prabhava, right? By their own impulsions of their swabhavika guna, people tend to understand these three different things. And why did he mention about the Swabhavika Guna, the influence of the Swabhavika Guna on the Jnana, Karma, Karta? Because these are the three things that will impact the end result of anything, the way things are carried out. And that was done basically because he was explaining Jnana, Jnaya, Parijnata. These are the three impulsions of any work. And Karana, Karma, Karta, these are the three Karma Sangraha. These are the three things that will impact any action to be taken up, right? Any action to be accomplished. And why did he say that? Because at the end of the day, every action for it to fructify, there is no absolute doership by anybody. There is adhisthana, karta, the nimitta karya karta, and then there are, vividha cheshtaha, the prayojana vidhi, right? Vividha, cheshtaha, then there is, adhisthanam, tatha karta, karanam cha pratagvidam, vividha cha pratak cheshtaha, and daivam chaivatra panchamam. These are the five things that will contribute to the materialization of any action for its completion, right? And why did he say that? Because at the end of the day, both the concept of tyaga and sannyasa are to recognize that we don't have absolute independence in anything that we do, and hence it is not up to us to determine what will be the outcome. Because tyaga at the end of the day is sarva karma phala tyaga, is is renunciation, abdication, washing our hands of the karma phala. Whatever comes, we take it as prasada. But karma phala is not my entitlement. That is the actual tyaga. And sannyasa is basically kamya karma sannyasa. Whatever is action that we do materially for the sake of getting any personally vested, motive out, that is basically sannyasa. Give up those actions is sannyasa. And why did he mention that? Because that's the question from Arjuna. The beginning of the chapter, Arjuna's question is, hey, Mahabaho, hey, no, Keshini Shudana, no, please explain thing. The simplest answer is the Sarva Karma Phala Tyaga is Tyaga, and Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam, the giving up of renunciation of Kamya Karma, the desirous action, right? That is basically sannyasa. And to make that concept completely seeped into the mind of Arjuna, he then explains how jnana, karma, karta, will have an impact in the karya, right? How the buddhi, the dhriti, and the sukha will have an impact on the karya, and how the three gunas will have an impact on all of these six, right? And finally, he said there is not a single entity which can be freed from the impact of these three gunas, right? That is the shloka that we last saw, which shloka number 40. In shloka number 41, I think he will further add, right? We will see what the shloka says. Click on the link given by Shraddhaji, which is pinned under the room title. That will take us directly to shloka number 41, right? ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय विशाम शूद्राणाम च परन्तप कर्माणि प्रविभक्तानि स्वभाव प्रभवैर्गुणैः ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय विशाम शूद्राणाम च हे परन्तप कर्माणि प्रविभक्तानि स्वभाव प्रभवैः गुणैः right हे परन्तप ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय विशाम शूद्राणाम च कर्माणि स्वभाव प्रभवैः गुणैः प्रविभक्तानि. He says, hey Parantapa, who Parantapa, right? He's calling Arjuna Parantapa here. Parantapati. Parantapati is basically Shatrum Tapati or Parabuddhishya Tapati, right? He can also take up lot of endurance, for the sake of that Paramatma, right? That can also be the Parantapa kind of a definition. And that is needed because now this Prabhava is all coming from the threefold gunas, right? And these threefold gunas are highly, highly duratyaya. That is what we had heard from Bhagavan in the 7th chapter. Nobody is spared from the impact of these three gunas, which means in our day-to-day activities, daily activities also, we can easily expect the influence of these three gunas to completely dislodge us from the path of what we are supposed to do, from the path of our duty, right? And to even stay put in our Swadharma, we require the Tapashakti, right? Even to carry out the Swadharma, we need the Tapashakti. Now he's telling Parantapa, Arjuna, oh Parantapa, because at the end of the day, Arjuna has to remain lodged in his duty, right? He has to carry out his function, which is fight the war, right? So Parantapa, no Parantapati. Here, the Shatru can be the impact of the Trigunatmaka Swabhava, right? That can be the Shatru. Hey Parantapa, the one who can quell the influence of his enemies. ब्राह्मणस्य क्षत्रियस्य विषां च शूद्राणां च कर्माणि स्वभावप्रभवैः गुणैः प्रविभक्तानि. Of the Brahmanas, of the Kshatriyas, of the Vaishyas, and also of the Shudras, their actions are divided based on the influence from their Swabhava Prabhava, right? From the by the influence of their Swabhava, their actions are divided. Whatever a Brahmana has to do, whatever the Kshatriya has to do, whatever the Vaishya has to do, and whatever the Shudra has to do, right? Their actions are divided based on their Swabhava, Prakriti born Swabhava, like the innate characteristics which are rooted in their nature, which are again influenced by these threefold gunas, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. There are many commentators, like they say, Brahmana's actions are driven largely by the virtue of him possessing more and more Sattva guna. The Kshatriya's Swabhavas are determined by the immense amount of Rajasika guna he possesses, but they are all tilting towards being more and more sattvic. Whereas a Vaishya's Swabhava are driven by more and more Rajasika Swabhava, Rajasika guna, which is tilting towards the Tamasika nature, right? So Rajas tilting towards Sattva makes you Kshatriya, and Rajas tilting towards Tamas, makes you a Vaishya. And when once your Swabhava is completely tilting towards the Tamasika, then you become a Shudra. These are some of the commentators that we see. But Krishna is telling, of the Brahmana, of the Kshatriya, of the Vaishya, and of the Shudra, their actions are driven largely by their Swabhava, the Prabhava of their Swabhava, right? Their Prakritika Swabhava, right? Which are basically driven by these three gunas, right? That's precisely what Aurobindo also says. The works of the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are divided according to the qualities or the gunas born of their own inner nature, right? Swabhava, right? That's a very simplistic one. We can click on next, right, on this web page on the right top corner, and we will be taken to the next shloka, right? We will see the next shloka. Harihi Om. Om Shamodamastapah Shaucham Kshantirarjavamev cha Jnanam Vijnanamastikhyam Brahma Karma Swabhavacham. Shamaha Damaha Tapaha Shaucham Shantihi Arjavam Evacha Jnanam Vijnanamastikyam Brahma Karma Swabhavacham. Right? Now Krishna is explaining the Brahma Karma Swabhava, whatever the karma of the Brahmana is. See, at the end of the day, this Chatur Varanya is a creation of the Bhagavan. That's what he says. I think now we will get more and more explanation as to how it happens. Because as much as he says, Chatur Varanya Maya system, Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidhi Akartaram Chamam Vidhi, he says. I am the doer of these fourfold Varna, but I am also the non-doer. Because how the non-doership of the Bhagavan comes is, he explains that in the 5th chapter, right? Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya sriti prabhu swabhavastu pravartate. It's a swabhava that are set in motion, which will create everything, and that's how he becomes the karta. He becomes the incidental karta, but he is also not the direct doer. It's a swabhava that is set in motion. And how that happens, now he is explaining how the swabhava, the innate qualities of every varna, will lead to what actions they will do. And by that big device, God's device being set in motion, he also becomes the indirect karta, right? He is the karta, he's also the akartara. He is also the kartara, he's also the akartara. That he's explaining. He's explaining, like, when we look into the Anvaya, Shamaha, Damaha, Tapaha, Shaucham, Shantihi, Arjavam, Astikyam, Jnanam, Vijnanam Evacha, Swabhavajam, Brahma Karma. No, basically he's telling the Brahma Karma, Brahmana's karma He is born out of these swabhavaja, these qualities which are born in their swabhava, which is shama. Shama is that inner quietude, right? Uh, Basically, completely, Bhagavat Nishtata Buddhi, basically completely quieted inner control, basically completely within the self. Sham. Sham is basically I don't have any external dependency to become quiet, right? So that's the shamatva. Shanti we call it, right? Shanti. Sham, right? Shama. Damaha. Damaha is basically the checks and balances to keep ourselves under check, right? Damaha is basically the mind control we do based on certain regulations we bring about our lifestyle. And tapaha. Tapaha is we require tapaha to carry out the uh, swadharma, right? Swadharma, swadharma acharan itself is a tapas. At one point in time, carrying out the swadharma itself becomes a very, very tapas. But nonetheless, tapas is basically the ability to endure the hardship, right? That's the tapas. And shaucham. Shaucham can be the bhashya shaucham, the antar shaucham, right? Shaucham can be bhava shuddhi, sarva indriya shuddhi, in all our karma charana, the antakarana shuddhi, bhava samshuddhi, what we say. That could be the shaucha, antar shuddhi, and also the indriya, avayava shuddhi, right? Whatever task we carry out through our external organs, that can be the bahish shuddhi, right? Bhakya shuddhi. The shaucham. Shaucham is basically cleanliness. Shantihi. Shantihi is like uh, Prithvivat, like how the earth can be Sahanashila, can be forbearing everything, can be tolerant to everything, right? That's the Shanti, the tolerance, right? Arjavam. Arjavam is the the straightforwardness, the Rujitva. The Rujitva is basically, in every action we take, it's the simplicity that we adopt. That's the Arjavam. Astikyam. Astikyam is basically the belief in the Vedokta, Shastrokta Vidhana, right? If I do this, I will, this is definitely the Shreyaskara thing for me. The Astikya is basically the belief in whatever the Shastras will have to say. And this is natural because the chapter 17 begins with the importance of the Shastra. The chapter 16 ends with the importance of the Shastra. Chapter 15 stands the importance of the Shastra again, where we first time hear about the Shastra. So the Shastrokta, that Pramana, keeping that is basically Astikya, the belief in the Shastrokta Pramana, right? And Jnanam. Jnanam is basically the 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 Vedokta Jnana, right? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. That's primarily the belief, right? Whatever the Shastra say, the Jnana, acquiring the Jnana from the Shastras is the Jnana. And Vijnana. Vijnana is basically grahya of that Vedokta Jnana. Realizing whatever has been told in the Shastra, then becomes the Vijnana, the realization through our meditation, through our practice, and things like that. That becomes the Vijnana. Evacha, all these are Swabhavaja Brahma Karma, are the Swabhavas, that will lead to the Brahmana's karma, right? Basically, Shama, the inner quietude, the mind control technique, endurance, cleanliness, tolerance, the simplicity, the belief, the knowledge, and the realized knowledge, right? These things will add as, the multiple qualities that will drive the Brahmana's activities, Brahma karma, right? The Aurobindo interpretation says the calmness, the self-control, the ascesis, the purity, the long suffering, the candor, the knowledge, and the acceptance of the spiritual truth are the work of the Brahmin, was of his Swabhava. I think it's the other way around. No, Swabhavaja, Swabhavat yat karma jayate. That's Swabhavaja, right? Should be looked into as a Bahubrihi, not yenam, yasmat jayate. All these Swabhava from which the Brahma karma jayate. That's why we should look at the Swabhavaja. So these are the qualities from which the Brahmana's work is born out of. Not the Swabhava is born from this activity. It's the other way around, right? We have to be slightly careful about how we interpret them. I mean, this interpretation might have its sense, but somehow, my limited understanding will not make sense of the way the Aurobindo interpretation is looking at it. I would rather look at it as these are the swabhavas from which the Brahmana's karma is born, right? So, but nonetheless, there is something called the Bahuvrihi Samasa, there is something called the Karmadharaya Samasa. Technically, both are correct, right? That much we can safely say and then keep it there, right? So, and this is the section in the Bhagavad-Gita, right, which is pretty straightforward, right? So, very clearly, Guna Karma Vibhagashah Chatur Varnyam Maya system, right? Now, what is the Guna Karma Vibhaga? What is the division of the Gunas and the Karma that is driving the fourfold Varnas in the society? I think that explanation is coming out very clear, right? Let's click on the next and go to the next shloka. शौर्यं तेजो धृतिर्दाक्ष्यं युद्धे चाप्यपलायनं दानमीश्वरभावश्च क्षात्रं कर्म स्वभावजम्. Now he's talking about the kshatram karma, right? Basically, shauryam, tejaha, dhritihi, dakshyam, yuddhe cha, apalayanam, danam cha, ishvara bhavaha api cha, swabhavajam kshatram karma. No, Shastram karma, the Kshatriya's karma, is born out of Subhavajam, is born out of these Swabhavas. What are these Swabhavas? Shauryam, right? Shauryam is basically that the freedom from fear. I think there is absolutely no fearlessness. That's the Shauryam, right? Adhirutvam, Parakramaha. Like, basically the completely devoid of fear. That Shauryam. Tejaha. Tejaha is the Shariragata Tejaha, right? Basically the brightness in the body, right? Shauryam Tejaha. Dhritihi. Dhritihi is basically what we call as the fortitude, right? The determination. Dhritihi. But here Dhritihi can be also the pluck, right? Uh, Pragalbyam. Dhritihi is basically that determination, right? Yuddhe cha apalayanam, and not turning the back, not showing the back in the yuddha. When there is a war happening, you can't turn your back. Like, that's the palayana, right? Apalayanam is the Shastra Swabhava, right? Basically being strong enough to face the enemy on the face, no matter how difficult the situation is. And this is what we see naturally in the carnivorous animals, right? Whether the lion is outnumbered by the buffalo herd, right? The lion will go and face the enemy. And similarly, sometimes even the buffalo herd also will face the lion or the tiger. So sometimes, right? But sometimes they do have the palayana, right? So, apalayanam, danam is basically through the Krishnarpana Swabhavena Dattva, like, you give up, you have the ability to donate charity, right? That's basically the, uh, danam. Uh, Dhritihi Dakshyam, sorry, there is something called the Dakshyam in between. Dakshyam is that proficiency, right? You can do things in a very efficient way. That's the Daksha Subhava. Daksha Pata Vaikal, Kaushalya, basically Kushalatva, basically the high skilled nature, right? And that is what Arjuna displays, right? Arjuna, throughout the Mahabharata, he displays that quality. Throw any knowledge at Arjuna, he will convert that into a finely accomplished skill. That's where he could win the Pashupatastra from Shiva, Brahmastra from Brahma, Varunastra, Agniastra. Name the Astra, he would master that. Daksham, right? That's the proficiency in skill, right? Danam, Ishvara Bhavascha. Ishvara Bhava is that Niyamaka Shakti, Niyamana Shakti, Dandadi Upayas, when, Samadana, Veda, Danda, right? Basically, ability to keep the subject under control, the leadership quality, right? Ishvara Bhavascha. While technically we can translate that to being a godlike behavior, but godlike behavior could be far-fetched. Godlike behavior will come for a Kshatriya primarily to keep the pack under control, right? That's basically the Ishvara Bhava. So these are the qualities that will drive the actions of a Kshatriya. right? See, one more thing we need to notice, these are the ideal swabhavas. The more and more we have transcended across the yugas, right? These qualities become uh, less and less prominent in people, and people start showing more and more mixed characters. Like, for example, when we see the Mahabharata Yuddha, you will have the Brahmana also fighting the war, you have the Kshatriyas also fighting the war, we have the Sutas also fighting the war, the mixed ones also. And we have definitely others, from the Vaishya and the Shudra Varnas also fighting the war. Everybody is fighting the war. Otherwise, there is no way to mobilize those 18 Akshohini Sainya. And when we look into the war, right, other than perhaps Bhimasena, everybody has shown Palayana. Everybody has turned their back, to the enemy, right? So Karna has done that. Drona has, Yudhishthira has done that. Duryodhana has done that. You name the warriors. Every warrior has done a bit, including Arjuna. Arjuna has also done the Palayana, right? Everybody has done the Palayana in the Mahabharata Yuddha, other than perhaps the Bhimasena, right? Other than him, nobody has truly displayed the Shastra Swabhava. So there is no 100% in which these Swabhavas will drive somebody. And even a Brahmana will show the Apalayana. Like when we look into a person like Ashwatthama, right? He has shown a great deal of Apalayana Buddhi, not turning the back to the enemy, right? In the difficult most moments also. So while these swabhavas are being described by Krishna, one thing that we notice, even in Dwapara Yuga alone, we have seen the mixing, watered down of these swabhavas taking place. So they are not pure in nature, right? And we can only imagine how much more mixing up could happen in the Kali Yuga, the time that we are in, right? So let's quickly see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Heroism, shauryam, high spirit, teja, dhritihi, resolution, resolute behavior, dhritihi, dakshyam, ability, yuddhecha, apalayanam, not fleeing in the battle, giving, charity, right? Danam, lordship, ishvara bhava, ishvara bhava, the temperament of the ruler. These are the temperament of the Shastra Swabhava and the natural work of the Kshatriya, which will drive the natural work of the Kshatriya. Rather than calling this as the work of the Kshatriya, these are the natural temperament of the Kshatriya that will drive his actions. Right? I think next shloka talks about the Vaishya Karma. Let's look at the next one. Harihi Om. Krishigaurakshya Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Svabhavajam Paricharyaatmakam Karma Shudrasyapi Svabhavajam. What it says is Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam Swabhavajam Vaishya Karma. Right? The actions, Vaishya Karma, are basically Krishi. Krishi is basically agriculture, right? Bhumi, Bija, Haladi, Padartha Dharani, Labharjanam. Basically, tilling the land, sowing the seed, making sure you water them regularly, basically, and whatever harvest comes, you take to profiteering from that. That's basically krishi. And Gauraksha is protecting or tending to the cattle, right? We have the cattle and tending to the cattle. That's the Gauraksha. And Vanijya is the Vanik Vritti, like the business, whatever other forms of business, the import, export, buy, sell. That Vanik Vritti is the Vanijya, right? Commerce and trade. These are the Swabhavaja Vaishya Karma. These are the natural actions of a Vaishya based on his Swabhava, based on the Swabhava. Good, and again, these are all basically the Gunatmaka Swabhava, right? And similarly, Paricharya Atmakam Shudrasya Api Swabhavajam Karma. Paricharya Atmakam is basically serving others, showing the assistant role, right? The subordinate role for somebody is the Shudra Karma that is born in their Swabhava. Now, here there is a word called Api. Api is normally missed out in many translations, right? We will come to that. Let's quickly see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Agriculture, which is Krishi, Goraksha, which is the cattle keeping, and Vanijyam, trade, inclusive of the labor of the craftsmen and the artisans. that's an opinion coming from Aurobindo, are the natural work of the Vaishya. No, Swabhavaja, Vaishya Karma. And all work of the character of service falls within the natural function of the Shudra. Right? But again, as I said, there is a word called api that has been missed out in this translation. Api means also. Basically, service is the work of Shudra also. Right? Now, this is something that we need to bear in mind, right? Shudra by nature is not a separate varna. When we study some of the scriptures like the Manusmriti, uh, Shudra, the instances where somebody becomes a Shudra, is where they do not complete their tasks necessary for becoming a Dvija. Right? Dvija is somebody who enters the Gurukula, joins the Guru's ashrama, and studies under the Guru. And the prominent dharma for a Dvija as a Brahmachari, right? As a student, our Parama Dharma is Guru Shushruksha, service of the Guru. So the natural ability of serving people is strongly advocated and mastered in the Gurukula by everybody. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, everybody knows that service is their primary motive, right? Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. That's how Karma Sannyasa is defined, right? And Karma Sannyasa is what every noble person in the society has to do. Araga Dvesha Bihi, without any personal attachment, is how people need to carry out their tasks, right? That's how the Dharma Shastras define. And somebody who cannot complete their tasks as a Dvija, right? They will get relegated to being a Shudra. And that is not a special relegation. They will just not pass over. See, when we don't pass an engineering exam, we don't have to become something special. We just remain what we were, which is basically uneducated, right? And uneducated is what the Shudra is, right? Shudra is somebody who doesn't complete the Dvijatva, right? Primarily because when we look at other scriptures, like Skanda Purana says, Janmana Jayate Shudra. Everybody is born a Shudra. And Samskara Dvija Uchyate. Only through the Shodasha Samskara that somebody can become a Dvija. Right now, Paricharyatmaka Karma is something that everybody has to do. Everybody has to do servitude. Brahmana has to serve the society. Kshatriya has to serve the society. Vaishya also has to serve the society. And that need not be called out separately because that is perfected by them by their mere survival in the Gurukula days. Right? Because the Gurukula dharma of a student, the Parama dharma of a brahmachari is Guru Shushruksha. Shushruksha is basically ability to listen and obey the command. Shrotam Ichuhu Shushrushuru, right? That's how the word Shushrucha comes. Right? So Shushrushata is a natural trait for every Dvija, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. And hence Krishna is telling Arjuna, even if you are a Shudra, you cannot escape the servitude of an action. Right? You don't have any other skill, but you have to serve also. So service is the Swabhava karma of a Shudra also. Shudra also has to serve. It's not like Shudra alone has to serve because there is no way to you can if you do not study for some reason, right? You found the studies to be too difficult. You found getting up early in the morning, spending sleepless nights to be too difficult for you to study. If you do not study for some reason, like you had a weak heart, you had a faint heart. The very word Shudra comes with the fact that Shucha Dravati, like you cannot stand even slightest bit of difficulty. No, you completely melt even with the slightest sight of difficulty. That's how you become a Shudra, right? Now, even if you become a Shudra, even if you remain a Shudra, you don't complete education, you cannot escape serving the society. You have to serve somebody. And that is why we see in the society today also, people who do not study much, they will become subordinates of those who study a lot. Right? In most of the organizations, this is the famous quote from Bill Gates, right? Most of the times we end up serving the geeks, in the large corporations. The geeks are the ones who will rule the roost, right? People who study a lot, the ones who endure those hardships, like, who show a lot of determination to overcome these hardships, and they pass out in flying colors, right? They are the ones who will be the bosses tomorrow in the large organization. And people who could not finish those hardship studies and things like that, because of their staying heartedness, because of their tamasika nature, where they were constantly glued on to Netflix programs and things like that, if they want to make a career for themselves, they cannot escape the service. They cannot escape the fact that they have to serve somebody, right? We will start serving different bosses, right? So the api is a very very operative word here, which I think many translations fail to document. The paricharyatmaka karma, the servitude, the character of service, is the natural work of the shudra also, right? Because there is nothing else naturally the Shudra can do. Service is what they do. And perhaps about 500, 600 years ago, the society may not have been too sensitive about what the Shudra is supposed to do. It was known. And hence, the Bhashyas would have just glossly said that, the natural work of a Shudra is to serve the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. The people who complete the Snatakottara Karya, people who complete their education in the Gurukula, then when they become the Brahmana, Kshatriya, or the Vaishya, depending on their innate quality, right? The Shudra has to serve them. Right? That was naturally the Bhashya. But we need to pay a lot of attention to this word called api. Krishna has categorically mentioned that he also has to serve, which means service cannot be escaped. No, a Brahmana, a Vaishya, a Kshatriya cannot escape the fact that they also need to serve the society. Because at the end of the day, everybody has to serve the society. And that is how we serve the Bhagavan, right? We have to serve the Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, we have to become. Let's see what Aurobindo, we already saw that, right? So the craftsman, the agriculture, the cattle keeping, and the business is what the Vaishya has to do based on his Svabhava. And serving the society is what the Shudra can do based on his Svabhava. Because at the end of the day, he doesn't have anything else, right? He has a weak heart. He has to go for, Indriya gratification, sense gratification. Okay, with that, let's go to the next shloka, shloka number 40, 45. स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरतः संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु. When we see the Anvaya, स्वे स्वे कर्मणि अभिरतः नरः संसिद्धिं लभते स्वकर्मनिरतः यथा सिद्धिं विन्दति tat shrunu. Right? Swe swe karmani, in their own self actions. Abhirataha, people who are delighting, people who are finding happiness, people who are excited, being in their activities. Naraha, the people or the person. Samsiddhim labhate. He will acquire perfection, or he will acquire the motive, whatever desired motive. Samsiddhi. Samsiddhi is basically success, right? Siddhi. Siddhi is basically something that has been, created nicely. Labhate, he will acquire. Swakarma nirataha yatha siddhim vindati. The one who is constantly engaged in the swakarma, swabhava niyata karma. How he acquires the siddhi. Tat shrunu. Listen to that from me. How a person who relentlessly stayed, pursuing the swakarma, how does he attain the samsiddhi? Please listen to it from me, is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. So the man who is intent on his own natural work attains perfection. Listen thou how perfection is won by him who is intent on his own natural work. Right? So Krishna is telling Arjuna. I think these are all pretty straightforward shlokas. Let's quickly go to the next shloka. Yatah pravrittir bhutana yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. Yatha bhutanam pravrittihi yena idam sarvam tatam tam ishwaram swakarmana abhyarchya manavaha siddhim vindati. Right? Basically, he's telling Yataha bhutanam pravrittihi. From whom, from all beings have emanated or originated. Yena idam sarvam tatam, and from whom everything else, all of this has originated, has extended, has pervaded. Right? Tatam. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya, by worshipping him through one's own swakarma, swabhavaniyata karma. Manavaha siddhim vindati. Man will attain siddhi, man will attain perfection. No, worshipping him by his own work, a man reacheth perfection. No, he from whom all beings originate, by whom all this universe is pervaded. By worshipping him through one's own work, natural work, a man will reach its perfection. Basically, this is the line in which Krishna is telling our work is our worship. Worship need not be a separate activity, similar to what he was telling, right, in the ninth chapter. No, the bhakti need not be an exclusive activity. Krishna says, Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yadjuhoshi, dadasi yat. Right? Again, the choice of words is very, very interesting. No, yajna, dana, tapas is the fundamental trait of Swadharma. Right? Yajna is the Paramadharma of the Dvapara Yuga. No, Dana is the Paramadharma of the Kali Yuga. Tapas is the Paramadharma of the Krita Yuga. But having said that, Yajna, Dana, Tapas in different proportions are there in every Yuga. And our Swadharma is basically a combination of these three things along with Jnana. Jnana is the Paramadharma of the Krita Yoga, by the way. Right? So Krishna's message is whatever your natural dharma is, yat karoshi, yadashnati, yat juhoshi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushvamadarpanam. Whatever you do, your regular Joe work, right, on your day-to-day basis, whatever you do, it is offer that Krishna Arpanamastu. That is bhakti, right? So here Krishna is explaining the same thing slightly differently. You know, through your swakarma, worship that Bhagavan from whom everything is originated, everything is emanated, in which in everything in which Bhagavan is pervading. So just offer as your the worship to that Bhagavan has to happen through your own naturally ordained karma, naturally ordained actions, which is basically for a Brahmana there are certain things. Now looking at those actions, right, those svabhava, right, Shama, Dama, Tapa, Shaucha, Shanti, Arjava, Jnana, Vijnana, Astikya. Naturally, when we see the Shat Karma of a Brahmana, Adhyayanam, Adhyapanam, Yajanam, Yajanam, Danam, Parigrahanam. So all of these are naturally then we can see that no Brahmana can do. Like similarly, Kshatriya, Shauryam, Teja, Dhritihi, Daksham, Yuddhe, Apalayanam, Danam, Ishvara Bhava, Prajanam, Paripalanam, Yajanam, Yajanam, Adhyayanam, Adhyapanam. Now, all of these things we clearly see that these are the duties of a Kshatriya. So when we see the Shatkarma of a Kshatriya, Shatkarma of a Brahmana, Shatkarma of a Vaishya, so it will easily tie back to the Swabhava that are listed by Krishna here, right? And Krishna is telling, through those Swakarma, you worship the Ishvara from whom everything is extended, from whom everyone has originated, and in whom that Ishvara is all pervading. And from that you will attain Siddhi, Siddhim Vindati Manavaha. Right? And then he goes on to say, Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharma Swanushthitat Svabhavaniyatam Karma Kurvannapnoti Kilvisham. Right? See, Swadharma is not easy. That itself is a tapashakti. Right? Because there are many delusions that we will see. In the third chapter, Krishna has given a warning. Once you understand the tattva properly, you understand that it's only the gunas that are playing on the guna. Because all of these, our actions are all driven by the swabhava, right? And swabhavas are driven by the gunas. That is something that we have seen. Guna guneshu vartanta iti matvana sajjate. It's the gunas that are getting attracted to the gunas or reacting to the gunas. Understanding this gunas play in this entire creation, one doesn't get attached to what they do. Whether it is good or bad, we will do because it has to be done. Kartavyyaniti me partha, nishchitam matamuttamam. That's the sattvika shraddha. So you have to do because it has to be done. Datavyam iti yaddanam, yastavyam iti yajyam. You do your yajna because it has to be done. You do the dana because it has to be done. Don't get attached to any of them. That's the Sattvika Shraddha, right? And that is what he had given a warning in the third chapter. Like, uh, Guna Guneshu Vartanta iti matvana sajjati. Right? You understand the tattva properly. It's the gunas that are playing on the gunas. No, but uh, you know, uh, Kayorna Vashamagachet, Indriyasyarte Ragadvesho Vyavastito. He says, he gives a warning. But the Indriyas have their own attraction and aversion. The sense organs have their own attraction and aversion to the different objects that we come across when we do our activities. Kayorna Vashamagachet, he says, don't fall, as a prisoner for them. Like, don't come under their captivity. Don't come under the captivity of the Indriyas and the Indriya Artha. No, their love and hate kind of a story. No, don't stay away from the love and hate kind of a story between the senses and the objects of the senses. No, because tau hyasya paripantino, they are the one that will dislodge you from your swadharma. And then in the third chapter, finally, he said the same kind of a line. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharma svanusthita. No, swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. So this is something that we have heard in the third chapter. Your swadharma is the ultimate thing for you. It is what will give you the shreyas. Shreyas is the, Bhagavad Prapti Marga, right? That's the Shreyas, not the Preyas. Preyas is something that is momentarily gratifying. Shreyas is Swadharma. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha. Even if you are not perfect with your Swadharma, your Swadharma is what you need to carry out, right? And Paradharma Svanushtita, even if you are well equipped to do Paradharma, you don't have to do that. Like for me, I think I can easily beg for the food, right? All of us, begging is kind of easy. We can perfectly execute the task of begging. But if our natural ability is to show resistance to the attack that is happening from the external sources and things like that, the Bhikshatana will not help. If I have Shastra Dharma, even if it is not perfected, I need to take up that Shastra Dharma rather than taking up Bhiksha. And that is the conundrum that Arjuna got into, right? He thought he wants to take up Bhiksha. Shreyo Bhoktam Bhaikshyamapi Hadoke, right? Rather than fighting the war, Guru na hatva hi mahanubhavam, Shreyo Bhoktam Bhaikshyamapi Hadoke. So, Swadharma is Shreyaha, Vigunaha api. Even if you think there are defects in your Swadharma, it is better to take up the Swadharma because you have these qualities. You have these qualities of Shaurya, Teja, Dhriti, Daksha, Apalayana Swabhava, Dana Swabhava, Ishvara Swabhava. Arjuna has these in natural way. So you have to take up the natural course of action, which is the Kshatra Karma, right? Even if you are not so good in it, even if you currently see some dosha in it, you have to take up the Kshatra Dharma. So that's what he's telling. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharma Svanushthitat. Then the second line is slightly different to what we saw in the third chapter. Swabhava niyatam karma kuruvan napnoti kilbisham. No, Swabhava niyatam karma kuruvan kilbisham na apnoti. Once you take up your actions which are driven by your natural Swabhava, you will not acquire any papa, right? Uh, so if your natural Swabhava is things like, Shaurya, Teja, Dhriti, Daksha, by carrying out the Shastra Swabhava karma, you will not attract any papa, right? I think Aurobindo says something similar. Better is one's own law of works, though in itself faulty, than an alien law, well wrought out, well established. One does not incur any sin when one acts in agreement with the law of one's own nature, right? And in a way, I think this shloka also gives us the definition of what is Swadharma. Our Swadharma is basically Swabhava Niyatam Karma. Our Niyata Karma, the regular ordained work persistently carried out, which are primarily impelled by our own Swabhava. If my natural Swabhava is Shama, Dama, Tapaha, Shaucha, Kshanti, Rujutva, Jnana, Vijnana, Astikya, I have to take up the Brahma Karma. Brahma Karma is again Adhyayana, Adhyapana, Yajana, Yajana, Dana, Parigrahana. If I don't have these qualities, then I shouldn't take up the Brahma Karma. Right? And again, it's the guna. guna, right? There is another entity which might be appearing similar to guna, but it is called the dosha. We shouldn't count the dosha to determine our no swabhava niyata karma. Dosha is faulty, right? We have to leave them aside. If I have sweet tooth, no, I shouldn't become a connoisseur of taste in a sweet factory just because I have a sweet tooth. If I have a sweet tooth, I should work on that vasana, and I have to overcome that. If naturally I like to get tipsy by consuming a lot of wine, I shouldn't become a wine taster, right? So I should be a little careful in choosing the guna. I have to recognize the guna separately. I have to recognize the vasanas and the dosha separately, right? We shouldn't mix up the two together. Let's go to the next shloka. I think here basically do your swabhava niyata karma. That's your swadharma, right? The next shloka, shloka number 47, 48.
48.
Sahajam karma kaunteya. Krishna Krishna. Shloka number 48. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadoshamapi न त्यजेत् सर्वारम्भा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्निरिवावृताः. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadoshamapi न त्यजेत्. He says, hey kaunteya, sadoshamapi, even faulty also, O kaunteya, O Kunti Putra Arjun, sadoshamapi, even if it is doshena sahita, sahajam karma, that swabhavaniyatam karma, no, sahaja is basically swabhavaniyata karma, not tyaje, you should never give up. You should never give up the swabhavaniyata karma, even if you think there is some dosha in it, right? Because he, dhumena agnihi iva, sarva rambaha doshena avritaha. No, indeed, just like how even a pure entity like fire will sometimes be enveloped by the smoke, right? Every action will have its own defect. There is no action that is devoid of defect, is what Krishna is telling. See, when we look into this, right, it's quite clear. When we look into the niyata karma, say for a brahmana, right? For a brahmana, begging is a niyata karma, right? He can beg, right? Parigrahana can be niyata karma. But parigrahana is nishiddha karma for kshatriya, for vaishya, for shudra. Similarly, Sukhanubhava, this material Sukhanubhava is a niyata karma for a Shudra. He can go sense gratification. Shudra can indulge in sense gratification. Drink as much as you want, do the Vaishya Chatana, as much as you want. So those are permissible for a Shudra. Right? But it is forbidden for the Kshatriya, for the Vaishya, for the Brahmana. Similarly, accumulation of wealth. Accumulation of wealth can be done by the Vaishya, right? He can accumulate wealth, but that is forbidden for a Kshatriya, for a Brahmana, for a Shudra, right? Similarly, killing of people. Killing of people is permissible. Every niyata karma will have some kind of a dosha when we look at into, we can do it from a different angle, right? So there is something forbidden which is ordained for somebody, right? So that mix is always there, right? So Krishna is telling, no, every action will have some kind of a dosha. Even the purest of the entity, like a fire, will have the dhuma, the smoke covering it. And therefore, you should never give up your swadharma, your sahaja karma, your swabhava niyata karma, even if you think it is appearing faulty. Right? Continue to do what you are supposed to do. Basically, currently Arjuna is anticipating a lot of dosha in what he is supposed to do. Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhavaha, he says. Not only dosha, he's looking at like a very, very meagerly, very lowly kind of a kripanatva kind of a dosha. That's what he was looking at in his own karya, which is yuddha. Arjuna was anticipating karpanya dosha. Right? So Krishna is telling him, no, you cannot avoid dosha. No, even Agni will have dhuma. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo says. The inborn work, O son of Kunti, though defective, ought not to be abandoned. All actions, in which is basically in the mode of three gunas, right? All actions in the three gunas indeed are clouded by defects, just as fire is clouded by the smoke. Right? With that, we go to the next shloka. Right? And this is all tattva, right? This is the section of the Bhagavad-Gita where tattva is kind of outlined very, very beautifully. Right? असक्त बुद्धि सर्वत्र जितात्मा विगत स्पृहः नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं परमां संन्यासेनाधिगच्छति. सर्वत्र असक्त बुद्धिः विगत स्पृहः जितात्मा संन्यासेन परमां नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं अधिगच्छति. He says, by just staying put, persistently staying put in your swadharma, so svabhavaniyata karma, no, you will acquire siddhi, right? You will acquire the great siddhi. How do you acquire the siddhi? Now he is explaining. Sarvatra asakta buddhihi. Like, you do not really get bothered about what is in store for you. You have to do the work because it is the worship for the Bhagavan. No, Swakarya, Swamikarya, we say, right? Constantly. Our own karma, Svabhavaniyata karma, is a Swamikarya. It's a Bhagavad karma. In that mode, definitely we are Vigata Spruha. We don't have any personal longings, any personal cravings, any personal attachments, Asakta Buddhihi, detached intelligence, Vigata Spruha, completely no personal attachments, no personal excitement. Naishkarmya Siddhim Paramam Sanyasena Adhikachati. That is how you will acquire the Naishkarmya Siddhi, the Moksha Sadhaka Siddhi. Naishkarmya is Nishkama Bhava Karma, right? And that is basically taken up for the highest state of liberated being. Right? Paramam Naishkarmya Siddhim Sanyasena Adhikachati. So by this is the samyasa, right? Kamya karma nyasa is a samyasa. Right? When you give up all the kamya karma, through the sannyasa karma, you will acquire that adhigachati, you will acquire that paramam naishkarmya siddhi. You will acquire that supreme mokshartha siddhi, is what he says. Now, this is in line with what we had seen earlier, right? Nata sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigachati. It is not through just giving up that we acquire anything. We have to start the work. You know, we have to start our swadharma, right? And only then we will acquire some siddhi, right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. An understanding without attachment in anything, in all things, a soul self-conquered and empty of the desire, vigata spruha. No, man attains by renunciation a supreme perfection of naishkarmya. Naishkarmya is nishkama karma svabhava, right? Which is the moksha siddhi. I think some of these things will sound even better when we read the translation in Hindi. Those of you interested can do that, but strongly suggested Bhagavad-Gita has to be understood in our own native Bharatiya Bhasha, be it Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu, Gujarati, Oriya, Bengali, Kashmiri, whatever language, right? Every Bharatiya Bhasha has Samskrita in it. So the understanding becomes much, much better when we read the local Bharatiya Bhasha translation. Okay, let's go to the next shloka, shloka number 50. Harihi Om. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tatapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para. Siddhim praptaha, he kaunteya, siddhim praptaha yatha brahma apnoti. So the one who has acquired the siddhi, the success in his work, in his see, at the end of the day, success in our work is just the ability to do that relentlessly. No, we will have problem as a housewife, as a husband. We will all have problem. As an employee, we will have a problem. Today, we are in a society where our easiest solution is give up. Oh, I have a problem with my wife, give up. No, divorce. I have a problem with my boss, no, give up. No, resign from the job. No, I have a problem with this customer, give up. Cancel supplying anything to that customer. No, we have that crazy attitude today developed, which is give up everything, give up everything. But Siddhi is basically where we navigate through these seemingly difficult moments. Now, find a solution. At the end of the day, finding that upaya, finding the solution is yoga. Yoga, one of the strong definitions of the word yoga, as much as it is the dhyana avastha, sannahana avastha, it's also the upaya avastha. It's also the way to find our solution for every situation. Right? So staying put in our swadharma itself is a siddhi. Arya Jushtatva, right? The Bhagavad-Gita begins with the word Arya. No, anarya jushtam aswargya makirtikaram arjuna. At the end of the day, all that we have to do is aspire to become Arya. And Arya is what? Kartavyam achare sadhyam, makartavyam anachare. No, you continue to do what you need to do and never do what is forbidden for you. That is the Arya form. And continuing to do our Swadharma is in itself a Siddhi. So Siddhim Praptaha, the one who has acquired that perfection. What is that perfection? It is basically Kartavya Sadhana. That I am able to do my Kartavya without any flinching attitude. See, when we turn our attention to a couple of generations before us, our grandfathers were those Nitya Samsara yogis, right? They were doing greatest of the things and appearing like absolute samsarika people, right? So that itself is a siddhi. So siddhim praptaha, the one who has acquired that kind of a siddhi, no, the kartavya siddhi. Yatha brahma apnoti, how he will acquire brahma bhava, brahma bhuti, right? Brahma apnoti. Tatha samasena eve shunu. Listen to that from me in a brief way, in a brevity way. No, ya jnanasya paranishtham, which itself is is the highest supreme concentrated knowledge, right? It's in itself is a nishtha jnana, right? So he's now Krishna is again making another pratigna statement, right? Listen to me, how after achieving the siddhi, karma siddhi, the same person will attain the Brahma Swarupa, right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. How, O Kaunteya, how, having attained this perfection, one attains to the Brahman here from me, O son of Kunti, that which is a supreme concentrated direction of the knowledge. Right? Let's go to the next shloka. बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया युक्तो धृत्यात्मानं नियम्य च शब्दादीन् विषयान् त्यक्त्वा रागद्वेषौ व्युदस्य च बुद्ध्या विशुद्धया बुद्ध्या युक्तः. No, with that vishuddhi buddhi, the one who is lodged or engaged or completely in union with that vishuddha buddhi. Vishuddha buddhi is vividapaya shuddha buddhi. So shuddhi in all aspects. All our antakaranas are shuddhi. All our thoughts are shuddhi. All our knowledge is shuddhi. All sattvika. No, vishuddhaya buddhya yukta. Dhritya atmanam niyamyasha. And again through sattvika dhriti. No, who controls his own self. Control niyamya. That niyama is basically needed because to stay averted to all the distractions that will come our way. Right? We have to stay undistracted for all those attractions that come our way. And for that we need the dhriti. So dhritya atmanam niyamyasha. Deliberately holding on to all such attractions and aversion and staying put in the dharma. Right? And for that we need the dhriti. See, again, the word dharma and the dhriti, they both share the same root, dhatu, right? So there is a lot of dhriti in dharma naturally. Shabdadin Vishayan Tyaktva. All various attractions, experiences, which are basically sound, sight, taste, touch, all these various attractions that we have. And these are the attractions, right? Shabdadin Vishayan Tyaktva. Abandoning all these various sensory experiences. Ragadvesho Yudasya cha. Completely purging out, the raga and the dvesha, completely dislodging the concept of raga, dvesha. Raga is basically attraction, dvesha is the aversion, right? Abjuring your, completely give up that kind of a, love and hate towards anything. No, na prahrishye priyam prapya, na udvijeta priyam prapya. Right? There is no raga dvesha. I don't have any special attraction to something. I don't have any special aversion or hatred towards anything. Right? That kind of a feeling. Vidasya cha. Right? So this shloka gets continued. इस श्लोक का अन्वय 53rd वे श्लोक में निहित है. It will go on till the 53rd shloka, right? So three shlokas are joined together. But nonetheless, let's see what Aurobindo says. Uniting the pure intelligence with the pure spiritual substance in us, controlling the whole being by firm and steady will, having renounced sound and other objects of senses and experiences, and withdrawing from all liking and disliking. No, one is fit to become the Brahman. This is the line that comes in the later shlokas, but I think just to make the meaning complete, this translation has brought that. By practicing this, we practice the Vishuddha Buddhi Yukti, practice the Dhriti, to control ourselves, and give up all the Shabdadin Vishayas, and give up the hankering to Raga Dvesha, liking and disliking. And the next shloka, right? विविक्तसेवी लघ्वाशी यतवा कायमानसः ध्यानयोगपरो नित्यं वैराग्यं समुपाश्रितः. Viviktasevi. No, Viviktasevi is somebody who lodges himself in solitude. No, ekantino yasya na kanchanartham. When we are Bhagavad Bhaktas, right? We are not bothered about what kind of a place we are in. We try to stay away from as many attractions as possible. So, Viviktasevi is somebody who secluded, who resides in a secluded manner, who stays in a secluded manner. Laghuvashi, with very minimal asha, and also minimal eating. Like, your eating is very very minimalistic. Laghuvashi, Viviktashevi, Laghuvashi, Yatavak Kayamanataha, and completely regulated, completely regulated your Vak Kaya Manas, your speech, your bodily actions, and your thoughts in the mind, right? Completely regulated is basically using them only upon where it is deserved. Like, you don't necessarily unnecessarily spend your speech, your actions, and your thoughts on frivolous things, right? So regulating them for only yata is mita, right? Deserving things. Dhyana yoga paraha nityam. And constantly, engaging for the paradhyana yoga, Paramatma Dhyana Yoga, constantly lodging oneself in the contemplation of the Paramatma Tattva, in the divinity. And the divinity is need not be up or down or right or left or here and there, right? The divinity is there everywhere. The contemplation is primarily trying to appreciate that. As much as currently in this clubhouse room, there is a lot of divinity. It's only for us to look around and notice them and start appreciating. And for that, we need to have the Jnana Yoga Para, Nitya, constantly contemplating on the divinity in everything. Right? Dhyana Yoga Paronityam, Vairagyam Samupashritaha, and some Upashritaha, completely staying, resorting to that absolute virakta, absolute detachment. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo says. Resorting to impersonal solitude, abstemious. What does abstemious mean? Abstemious, speech, body, and mind control. Abstemious. I think this is a new word. Let's see what that means. Does anyone know what abstemious? You can just quickly reading. Indulging in only moderately, very moderately in something, especially food and drink. So lagwashi. Right? Lagwashi is basically abstemious. Right? That's abstemious. I think we can learn a little bit of English also through this website. One moment. I lost the. One moment. Abstemious. One moment. Sloka number. We are still in sloka number 50, is it? No, we are in sloka number 52. Sorry. Let me change it. One moment. My apologies. Okay. Resorting to impersonal solitude, Vivikta Sevi. Laghuashi, abstemious, which is basically moderately tending to food and drink and other desires, and completely controlling the speech, body, and mind. Yatava Kayamanasa, constantly united with the inmost self by meditation. Dhyana Yoga Parahanitya, completely giving up desire and attachment. Vairagyam Samupashritaha. And that kind of a person is fit to become Brahma. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate is something that we hear in perhaps the next or the next to next shloka, and we will see that. So he will become fit to become Brahma. So do your Swabhava Niyata karma. Constantly do your Swabhava Niyata karma without any personal attachment to it. That is how you become Siddhi. You become perfect in Swadharma Palaka, Paripalaka. And in that state, continue to be in that state, you will acquire the Brahmicity. And this is what he is explaining through the Tattva, right, Krishna? Because at the end of the day, Arjuna's question was, oh Keshava, teach me Tattva. No, Sanyasasya Mahabaho, Tattvam Ichhami Veditam. No, Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha, Pratakeshini Shudana. I want to understand the variegated forms of Tattva. Right? Let's look at the next shloka. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmamah shanto brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Right? Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmamah shantaha brahma bhuyaya kalpate. At the end of the day, this is what is needed. It's all about the ego, right? When we do things without this element of ahankara, I think everything is sorted. No, nirmamaha, nirahankaraha, sashanti madhigacchati. No, that's the uh, uh, the second chapter. You know, towards the end of the second chapter. That's what Krishna says. Nirmamo nirahankaraha. No, sashanti madhigacchati. Kama is there, the desires are there, but we have to let the kama go. Kama pass. Let kama enter our life also, but let the kama not become my kama. Let it not be my desire. If there is any desire, let it be our desire. Let the world benefit out of it. Right? When we dislodge that I in everything that we do, I think that's where the victory is. Right? Ahankaram. So, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham, parigraham, vimuchya, nirmamaha, shantaha, brahma bhuyaya kalpati. When you become completely vimuchya, when you completely liberate oneself from ahankara, the feeling of I did this, ahameva karta, that kind of a feeling. Balam, that I have this strength. The strength is basically the bodily strength, right? It is the bala is not when we say kama raga balanvitam, like there is a lot of bala that comes when we have our attachment. Give up that kind of a bala. Darpa is basically that arrogance about ourselves, that high-handedness about ourselves. Somebody asked me a question. Oh, you asked me this question. How can you ask me this question? Don't you know that I know the subject so very well? That's kind of a high-handed belief. Darpa. Hypocrisy, basically attaching too much importance to oneself. Kamam, krodham, parigraham. And this kama, right? Kama is basically where I attach my helplessness to this desire, which will lead to krodha. Krodha and kama are the same, right? The shudra, kama, those are the lowly kama. And parigraham, material possession, right? Vimuchya, being liberated from all these things, anchoring, ahankara, bala, darpa, kama, krodha, parigraha, vimuchya, nirmamaha, shantaha. When somebody says, nothing is mine, nirmamaha, there is no mamakara, nothing is mine, naham karta, even whatever little you may think I am doing, it's basically hari prerana, right? Naham karta. In that nirmama feeling, that's not me kind of a feeling, one who becomes completely shanta, one who becomes completely quiet inside. No, Saha Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpati. He will become eligible to acquire the Brahma Bhuti, Brahma Bhava, Brahmi Sthiti, Brahma Nirvana Sthiti, Brahmani Bhava Ayam Sthiti, right? That's how some people say. Brahma Prapika Sthiti, that's how some people say. Brahma Vishaya Sthiti. There are different ways in which this Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpati can be defined. So one becomes eligible to become one with the Brahma. No, Muktana Paramagatihi, that Brahma, right? Well, we get eligible to share the space alongside that Brahma quality. Let's see what Aurobindo says. Having put away the ahankara, the egoism, the violence, the arrogance, the desire, and the wrath, the sense and instinct of possession, parigraha, and free from all that I-ness. No, nirmamaha vimuchya. No, I-ness and minus. No, nirmamaha, nirahankaraha. No, nirmamo nirahankaraha. And calm and luminously impassive. Shantaha. No, Brahma bhuyaya kalpati. One becomes fit to become the Brahman or become one with the Brahman, together with the Brahman. Now, this is an Advaita website. So Jivatma becoming Brahmatma is a very popular way of looking at it from the Advaita. But there are different ways in which other schools also see, right? So we can, being one with Brahma is not necessarily becoming Brahma, right? So two different things that some people draw the line. Okay, let's go to the next shloka, shloka number 54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktin labhate para. No, that Brahma bhutaha prasannatma, the one who then resides with the Brahma, that prasannatma. No, that prasannatma, no, there is a prakrishta sattva. There is a pra and a sat in that atma, right? Mainly because whatever he has, it's the prasada from the Bhagavan, right? So that Brahma bhutaha prasannatma, the one completely content kind of a atma, na shochati, he doesn't have any grief, na kankshati, he doesn't have any desire. No, sarveshu bhuteshu samaha, he finds absolute equanimity in all living beings. Param mat bhaktin labhati. He will acquire the supreme Bhagavad Bhakti. Right? When one has become the Brahman or one has become one with the Brahman, so when one serene in the self, neither grieves nor desires, when one is equal to all beings, then one gets a supreme love and devotion to me, to Bhagavan. Right? And this is all step by step. Krishna is presenting the tattva. Right? Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnatva vishate tadanantaram. Right? Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So, and in that bhakti, he will completely understand me. Bhaktya mam tatvatah abhijanati. He will understand me through the tattva. Yavan, yahacha asmi, iti tatvatah janati, abhijanati. Who am I? How am I? All of this, right? And tataha mam tatvatah jnatva. And then thereafter, having understood me through proper tattva, vishate tadanantaram, pravishate tadanantaram, he will then move up into the other worlds. Other worlds are the upper worlds. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swargaloka, Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. There are different levels of the loka, right? Now, this is very interesting because when you don't understand things by the tattva, no, Natuma, in the ninth chapter, he makes the statement, right? Natuma abhijanati tattvena tu chavantite. If you don't understand the Bhagavad Tattva correctly, then you will relegate yourself. You will have a fall down. No, Natuma abhijanati, bhuktaram aham sarvasya, aham hi sarva yajnana, bhukta cha prabhurevacha, Natumam abhijanati tatvena taschavantite, something like that he says in the ninth chapter. One, if you don't understand the tattva of me, that I am the karta in everything, I am the prabhu in everything, I am the bhoktara of everything, of all the yajna, tapas, dana, whatever dharma, charana that happens in this universe. I am the ultimate prabhu, I am the ultimate bhoktara. If you don't get the tattva behind this, if you don't realize this truth, then no matter how high you go up, you will always have a fall down. Right? That's what he had mentioned in the ninth chapter. And now he is explaining why that is true. Right? Once you have the proper bhakti, through that bhakti you will get the realization of the tattva of the God. Right? When we look into the Narada Bhakti Sutra, bhakti is the thing which will lead us to the jnana. Asya Jnanameva sadhanamityeke is the line that we say that we see in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, right? Of the bhakti, the ultimate sadhana of bhakti is the jnana. Because without jnana, bhakti will not remain solid. And without bhakti, jnana will not come. So bhakti and jnana are paraspara ashrayakara. Like they support one another. Without bhakti, there is no way to acquire jnana. Without jnana, there is no way to remain in the state of bhakti. So in the state of bhakti, what Krishna is saying, you just stay in the state of bhakti. In that bhakti, you will mam yavan yascha asmi iti tatvatah abhijanati. Who am I? What is my role here? How do I play out in all of these things? You will get all of this understanding in that bhakti swabhava alone. I know, and tato mam tatvatah jnatva. No, and after having known me through the tattva, vishate tadanantaram, then you will enter those anantara loka, like the higher and higher planes. Let's see what Aurobindo says. By devotion, he comes to know me, who and how much I am, and in all the reality and principles of my being. Having thus known me, he entereth into that Purushottama Tattva. Some opinion coming in Aurobindo interpretation. Uh, Rare. In this website, the opinionation is quite rare, but once in a while we see that, right? Nobody is devoid of opinions, right? Their own interpretation, right? Because natadasti prithivyam va divideveshu va punaha. Even Chaturmukha Brahma is not devoid of the guna, the impact of the guna, right? Let's go to the next shloka, shloka number 56, right? सर्वकर्माण्यपि सदा कुर्वाणो मद्यपाश्रयः मत्प्रसादादवाप्नोति शाश्वतं पदमव्ययम्. No, mat vyapashrayah, one who is completely taking refuge under me. Sarva karmani sada kurvanah, and who constantly does all his swadharma, right? Swadharma action, right? Never abdicates from any responsibility. Right? We have to do that. Right? See, this is the message that is repeatedly coming in Bhagavad-Gita. Our worship is primarily our work. So we cannot abandon the work and say we are bhaktas, right? So, no, sarva karmani sada kurvanaha api mat prasadat shashvatam avyayam padam avapnoti. So that kind of a person who constantly takes refuge under me, that whatever I do, I might be leading the life of a family man, a life of an employee, a life of an employer, a life of a citizen, in whatever role that I play. That could be my Vesha Dharma, my Pitru Dharma, my Bhratru Dharma, my any Dharma that I do, the role play that I play, right? When I take refuge under, okay, this is all Bhagavad Karya, Madhyapachrayana, one who constantly takes, shelter under me, lodges everything as my kartavya. And sarva karmani sada kurvanaha, one who does all the actions as they are supposed to be done. Mat prasada chashvatam avyayam padamapi avapnoti. Through my prasada. See, when you are prasannatma, obviously we get the prasada. Prasanna and prasada, they both have the same root. Prasat, right? There is a prakrishta and there is sattva. So in the previous shloka he says prasannatma, brahma bhutaha prasannatma. Now he says you will get prasada, right? Very similarly, in the second chapter also he says something very similar, right? Uh, uh, Towards the end of the second chapter, raga dvesha vyuktaisu vishayani. No, what? He says something like prasade आत्मवश्ये विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसः हि आशु. So when we accept everything as the prasada of the Bhagavan, in the Sankhya Yoga also he explains that he becomes prasannatma, prasanna chetasaha hi ashu bhavati. Like very quickly he becomes prasanna. So prasanna atma in the previous shloka. Now in that prasada, whatever we receive as prasada, whatever results we get in this life, these are the Bhagavad Prasada. These he will acquire. And by doing also all his actions always lodged in me, he attains by my grace the eternal and imperishable status. which is the Brahma Bhava, Brahma Bhuti. Right? It's 9:30 now. Right? We could perhaps pause at this juncture. Right? We have another 20 odd shlokas to complete. Maybe another couple of sessions of the Pratipadartha. We should be done with the entire Bhagavad-Gita. So we take a break now. This is something that we do every Saturday from shloka number 57. Let's look into it from next Saturday. Right? We will take a break now. If anybody has any thoughts to add, any remarks to make, any feedback in the way this is being conducted, please do let us know. Of the Pratipadartha, we should be done with the entire Bhagavad-Gita. So we take a break now. This is something that we do every Saturday from shloka number 57. Let's look into it from next Saturday. Right? We will take a break now. If anybody has any thoughts to add, any remarks to make, any feedback in the way this is being conducted, please do let us know. This has been almost like a 2-year exercise. We started somewhere around November, December 2021. We are almost coming to the last leg of the Bhagavad-Gita now. So we take a break now. Every Saturday we meet for about 90 minutes and cover as many shlokas as possible. Right? Roughly about 10 shlokas is what we have covered every week. And 700 shlokas in 770 weeks, which is almost like 2 years. Right? If anybody has any thoughts, please to come up on stage. I will take a break now. Easy to come up with thoughts because there is so much to digest from what Bhagavan has given us. So quite understandable. If anybody gets any thought, please do share with us through multiple channels. We have a Telegram group also wherein we can help one another through constant chatting also in case some discussions need to be initiated. And it's welcome for all. You could also join the Telegram group. And that's also a backup plan for us in case something happens to Clubhouse. There is a lot of uncertainty with Clubhouse. In case somebody wishes to continue the Satsanga, we have formed a decent enough group, through whatever we have done in the Clubhouse. If in case anybody desires to stay in touch, please do join the Telegram group. The reason why we have opted for Telegram is because it will allow us to remain anonymous. In the social media, many people prefer to remain anonymous, not revealing their true identity for multiple reasons, for safety reasons being the primary one. So it will allow you to remain anonymous and still be in touch. So in case somebody finds something to share, worthwhile to share, please do ping us and please feel free to raise the hand, ping for the mic access, come up on stage and share. And we will continue this journey from next Saturday. In the meanwhile, for those of you interested, the way we want to learn Bhagavad-Gita or anything, right? We believe that we have to get familiar with chanting the shlokas before we embark on studying the translation of the Samskrita, right? So to that extent, we have been practicing Bhagavad-Gita chanting for more than 2 years now, right? We have completed 110 cycles of Bhagavad-Gita Parayana, right? So every morning, 6 o'clock India time, right? 100 shlokas on an average every day. We complete all 700 shlokas of Gita in a week and in a guided chanting format where somebody will lead us through the lines and everybody else will repeat those lines, basically helping ourselves in different styles, ability to recite. And we continue that journey. Like from tomorrow, we are starting a new cycle, right? Every Sunday, we begin a new cycle of Bhagavad-Gita Parayana. And every Saturday, we complete that particular cycle. And once completing the cycle, we meet for this Pratipadartha after a brief break. So we continue with a new cycle of Bhagavad-Gita Parayana tomorrow. So those of you interested, please do join us for that. And please do refer this space to those 1 or 2 people that we may all know who are looking for a group like this, which will help one another get the foundation of the Bhagavad-Gita. We don't intend to become experts of it. Nobody is an expert of Bhagavad-Gita. The more chintana we do, the newer layers of meaning will appear in front of us. So there is never an end to how much we can study the Gita. But 2 refers where we try to get comfortable with Bhagavad-Gita Adhyaya. And similarly, we have something in the evening, 8:30 p.m. India time every day. We do the study of Uddhava Gita. So we have completed more than half of it now. In 1 week, we pick 1 chapter. right? We don't go in depth word by word, but we do a very brief Artha Chintana, exploration of the meaning in a very, very brief way. Every Friday we look at the meaning, and then from Saturday to Thursday we practice how to recite the shloka. So every evening, 8:30 p.m., we have the Uddhava Gita. So please have a check. Please check out what we have as the bio of this house, Purushottama Yoga House. All the details are given there. So we continue the journey until next time. Let's adjourn for the session now. On the reverse count of three, we will be closing the room now. Those of you who are in good space can come up on stage and join us for a small Jaya Ghoshti in the name of our Gita Acharya, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. 3, 2, 1. Namaste Vasudevaya Preyasame Priyottama Samasta Sampurna Nirdosha Nandadayini Mukopi Yat Prasadena Mukunda Shayanayate Rajarajayate Rikto Raghavendram Tamashraye Bharati Ramamukhya Pranam Sarata Shri Gopala Krishna Priyata Shri Krishna Arpanastu. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai
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 Shri
Shri
Krishna.
Krishna.